This is the 2016 BMW X1. It's actually called the F48 version. Now, this is an entry level at the starting. This is the smallest BMW SUV you can buy. From this X1, we have the X3, X4, X5, X6, and X7, which is actually the largest BMW SUV. Now, welcome back to 026 Motoring. Once again, my name is Bill CO2, and today I want to tell you a few things here and there about this 2016 BMW X1. 026 Motoring makes your car ownership journey easy. So if you want to purchase a car, you can shoot us a message or ring us, and we're going to give you car information. That is a car reviews. We're going to also scout a clean car for you, inspect it, such that your car ownership journey becomes easy. That is the goal of 026 Motoring. Now, when you're looking at this 2016 BMW X1, is a complete redesign or makeover from the previous generation. Actually, the BMW X1, the previous generation, the X1 itself started in 2009, and then it ran to around 2015. And then these are F48 version started from 2016 all the way to around 2020, 2021 thereabouts. So this is the second generation BMW X1. How different is it from the previous one? Now, when you're looking at this car, it's it's now looking like a normal crossover, and like the traditional one, which used to look like a like a station wagon. But still, the differences in this car compared to the other one are not only in the exterior design, but also in the mechanical element, because the previous one was actually built on the 3 Series platform, but now this one is built on a newer platform, which is actually on the Mini Cooper platform. And if you don't know, Mini Cooper is actually a subsidiary of BMW. That's why this 2016 F48 BMW X1 is built on the Mini platform. So how does this car look like in terms of design and the mechanical component compared to the previous one? Now, this F48 version is actually built on a front-wheel drive train, while the previous one was actually built on a rear-wheel drive train. Those people are synonymous, or those people who know BMWs, you know pretty well that BMWs makes most of their cars have been actually rear-wheel drive cars, including the smallest hatchback, that is the 1 Series. It's a rear-wheel drive car. Now, because the previous one was actually based on a rear-wheel drive element, this one was redesigned, and then everything was brought up front. It's a front-wheel drive version. Of course, there are all-wheel drive versions, but mostly it's more of a front-wheel drive version. Now, speaking of the front-wheel drive element, that takes me straight into the mechanical component. Let's see how does it look like when it comes to the mechanical component of this 2016 BMW X1 F48. Now, because this is a different version from the previous one, I deem it prudent starting from the mechanical element. I've said that this BMW F48 is basically based on a front-wheel drive train, because basically nowadays manufacturers are actually trying to build cars that are actually going to be more fuel efficient. And still, when you're looking at the economical cost, it's actually cheaper designing and building a front-wheel drive car than a rear-wheel drive car. Now, let's see what this car has in terms of the engine variations. This is an S18i. Basically, S18i is the entry level. It actually sits at the bottom class, the bottom of the hierarchy when you're looking at the X1. Basically, the S18i is powered by a 1.5 liter turbocharged petrol engine. Now, when you're looking at this powertrain, because it's a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine, it's not going to be as powerful as the previous 2 liter. But still, above this one, you can still purchase a 2016 BMW X1 with a 2 liter turbocharged petrol engine. And now, when you're purchasing that 2 liter turbocharged engine, you're going actually to find it with an all-wheel drive variant, which actually in BMW it's called a X-Drive. So X-Drive is what BMW calls a all-wheel drive. It's the same as maybe Quattro in Audi or a 4MATIC in Mercedes. Now, this 1.5 liter turbocharged petrol engine is actually paired to a 6-speed automatic gearbox, which actually sends drive to the front wheels only. That's why it's called the S-Drive. Everything here in this BMW is a bit weighed, of course, because everything happens up front here. So these are 1.5 liter 6-speed automatic, driving the front wheels only. That's why it's called the S18i. But if you want an all-wheel drive X1, you're going to find it being called the X. You immediately see X before the number, then that is actually an all-wheel drive variant. Now when you're looking at the power output of these 1.5 liter, you're looking at around 140 brake horsepower, and of course something like 240 Newton meters of torque thereabouts. Now that may not be something that can set your world on fire, but at least it's decently powered for this car. Of course it may not appeal to traditional BMW fans because it's a small motor, and then the tuning potential for this one can be a little bit limited. But for those people who want to get into BMW and they want an entry-level crossover, then this is the basic or this is the entry level. Of course, I can also not be, I'm a BMW fan, so I cannot be a big fan of this motor. I'll prefer the 2 liter because I'll get all-wheel drive, an 8-speed automatic gearbox, and of course more power on the highway. But then this is meant for fuel efficiency. Now speaking of fuel efficiency, when you're having a 1.5 liter turbocharged BMW X1 with a front wheel drive version, you're basically looking at figures around 12.5, 13. Of course the manufacturer will be quoting higher figures, but I want us to remain realistic. For an 8-old year car, if you could get 13.5 kilometers per liter, I think it's still pretty decent if you ask me. Now apart from this 1.5 liter and the 2 liter turbocharged petrol engines, the X1 can also be found with a diesel flavor. Now I've not experienced that 2 liter diesel in this X1, but at least I've driven an X3 with it, and I can actually tell it's a very potent and fuel economical car. So if you want that combination of power and fuel efficiency in one package, that 20D is actually a very good engine. And good thing with that 20D from the X3 is that it's easily found with an X drive, that is on all-wheel drive, compared to this S18, which is only found with a front-wheel drive version. But still, BMW diesels, you have to be a little bit cautious with them when it comes to reliability. But if you want to keep things simple, just get these petrol versions. How does this BMW F48 2016 look like when it comes to the design element? Honestly, I find this car more appealing than the previous generation, which used to be a little bit like a jacked up station wagon, because this one is now mature or more of a crossover. Like it's like a baby X3. Now when you're looking at this car up front here, you have these LED headlamps, which have actually incorporated these LED headlights. I think headlamps. I think you can see them. You have these fog lights, which are actually a little bit, I like how BMW places their fog lights. In case you are not that keen on approach and departure angles, you cannot actually destroy them, because those ones that are placed down here, it's actually easier destroying them. So that is how this car looks like in the front. You have this traditional BMW grille, which is actually the right size. Of course, going forward, the BMW have been increasing their grills. You have this BMW logo here. Generally, the look of this car from up front, let me say, it's appealing to the eye. On the side profile, this is actually a base model S-Drive 18i. If I've already told you that this is an entry level. So when you're looking at the wheel size of this car, these are actually 18-inch alloy wheels, but still for those top and high top of the range X1s, they can actually be found with the 19-inch alloy wheels, but I find these ones are pretty okay. Now when you're looking at the side profile of this car, it's somewhat boxy, of course, so to increase to give you more room, that is a headroom and a knee room. Of course, I'll be coming into that in a few moments when I'm getting into the interior. But generally speaking, when you're looking at these BMW X1, these 2016 version, more mature, more solid, looks quite better compared to the previous one, and I think BMW did a good job there. Looking at the design of this car from the rear perspective, you can actually tell that the rear roof is now on the higher side, of course, for practicality reasons. This is how it looks like from the rear side. It's typical BMW crossover SUV. You have these parking sensors here. This one actually comes with a single exhaust. You have this BMW logo, X1 name here, and these are the tail lights, and this is the spoiler here. So generally the X1 has been carved to look like a normal crossover, of course, for more practicality. That is the best way to summarize this X1 F48 variation. This is how the cabin styling of this 2016 BMW X1 looks like, and you can actually tell that the fit and finish is good, but this is an entry-level BMW, or it's an entry-level European car, so don't expect much, because even when you're looking at this interior, these seats are bucket seats, but they are fabric seats. Of course, the fabric seats, the fabric quality is quite good. Now, when you're looking at the interior crafting of this car, everything here actually looks pretty solid, though it's a base model, but still, you can actually tell that it's okay. Of course, this is not as appealing to the eye or as inspiring as something like a Mercedes GLA, but you can really tell that there is some good fit and finish inside here. Now, looking at the features in this car, when you are looking at this console here, you have this infotainment screen. It's actually a small screen, but it's still it's a good one for the car. Over driving mode, sport, eco mode here, parking sensors, traction control, the electronic parking brake here, and then you can also control your media from this center console here. It's actually, let me say, everything in this car is actually simple to use, because there are not many functionalities in this car, considering that it's an entry level. And when I'm looking at the accommodation element, you can actually see that the headroom is okay. The knee room, actually in this car, these seats are actually manually adjusted, because it's an entry level, it's a basic model. So adjusting the seat backward to the farthest, you can actually tell that the knee room is okay. But if I may want to drive this car, this will be my driving position, so I don't think I'll suffocate the people sitting on the rear side. Now, in terms of the practicality, how does the trunk of this 2016 X1 look like? The boot here is actually electronically adjusted, so you press it that way and it's going to open up that way. This is how the space of this 2016 X1 looks like, and you can actually tell that it's not that cavernous, but at least it's still practical for your luggage. You still have some amount of room down here, so you can actually expand it down here. That is in case this room does not look that practical. Now, when you're looking at the practicality of this car matters, the spacing element, the headroom, the knee room, I'll say it's a little bit improved from the previous generation. So if you wanted to purchase the previous generation X1, but you found it a little bit cramped, this one actually gains a few inches here and there in terms of the knee room, leg room here and there, and even the boot is a little bit spacious. BMW makes the best driving cars. Basically, most BMWs will be good to drive when compared to the rivals. Of course, I've spent last time I drove the next one from Mombasa to Nairobi, but that one was an all-wheel drive car with a panoramic sunroof, and I enjoyed that trip. The power was sufficient, but it was a 2-liter version actually. Even for this 1.5 liter, you can actually find it with higher specs than this one. So if you want a good crossover that is fun to drive, definitely a BMW will actually be ticking your box. But still, the rivals, I find that something like an Audi Q3, it's still actually similar to this one in terms of driving dynamics, especially the front wheel drive. These are crossovers that actually handle like hatchbacks. Basically, when you are in this BMW X1, it's like you are in 1 series, but a jacked up 1 series, let me put it that way. So if you want a good crossover that is fun to drive, definitely a BMW is going to hit your sweet spot, because the power is sufficient for day-to-day travels. The braking is okay, the handling around corners, it's nimble and it's agile. The 2016 BMW X1 price tag starts at around 3.5 million shillings. Now, is it value for money? When you're looking at 3.5 million shillings, there are not much European crossovers you can get that price tag, because when you're looking at the Audi Q3, the prices will be starting around 3.5. That is for the basic version, that is the 1.4 TFSI, and then we're looking at the GLA, it's actually at around 4 million plus. If you have a 3.5 million and you want a more practical crossover, you may want to look at Japanese crossovers, because for Japanese crossovers, they are bigger cars than this one, but they come at a slightly lower than 3.5 million shillings. But now, when you're looking at this entry-level S18i with a 1.5 liter front-wheel drive version, it may not be appealing as a good crossover, especially if you are going a little bit off-road. But nowadays, not many people take their cars off-road. So if you want to remain within the highway and you are not a speed freak, the 1.5 liter turbocharged engine here is still sufficient for your day-to-day operations. But if you want something that at least you can once in a while you can actually feel like you're driving a real BMW, you better get the X Drive, a 2 liter with an all-wheel drive version. That is a true BMW. But still for this S18i, it's still okay. But if you may also want features like a panoramic sunroof, something like interior with leather seats, then you of course have to step up from this S18i and get something that is a little bit fancier. Now 3.5 million shillings, when you're looking at the options you have, the Q3 will be a little slightly expensive than this X1, and Q3 of course will be actually having let me say a more appealing interior than this one. That is if you get a good trim. And for the Q3, if you get the 2 liter, it actually comes with a standard all-wheel drive. Of course, the 1.4 liter is also a front-wheel drive like this one S18. But if you want something with a good technology and a betterly crafted interior, the GLA will actually be the best pick in this class, but it will also become more expensive. So who should buy this BMW X1? Someone who should buy this BMW X1 is a BMW fan who wants maybe a 3 Series, but still they don't like its ground clearance. So they want something that is a little bit jacked up, but still they want to be seen with a BMW on the nose or a BMW logo. So those are the people who are going to purchase this 2016 BMW X1. I think these short video has given you a few insights here and there about the X1. And if you wanted to purchase it, now you have a little bit of information. So if you want to buy this X1, the GLA, the Audi Q3, you can actually shoot us a message on 0 to 60 Motor. We are going to scout a clean car for you and run all the pre-purchase assessment checks. Alright guys, I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.